Hello everyone and welcome to Helix Cloud Games. My name is Richie and this is SideQuest, a cloud gaming discussion show where we do a deep dive into one topic. On this week's show we're discussing what could Stadia white label? And I'm joined on this quest by the host of the Sounds of Stadia podcast, Mr. Chris.
Hello cloud gamers.
But before we get into it, make sure if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon for notifications when all of our great shows go live, such as the Sounds of Stadia podcast every single Monday on YouTube and podcast services, and our Thursday night live streams where we went to Moscow to kill some zombies.
We did.
We did indeed. We must go kill some zombies. I apologise to everyone for that joke.
You should cancel the show for that joke.
Right, that's it. Show's over, guys. We're going home.
Bye.
When we're reading... Amy Hennig's just been announced that she's got a new Star Wars game in the works. And when we're reading some of about it before the Sound Stadia podcast, we came across an interesting line in an article from the Star Wars news blog itself, which I'm going to read because this kind of led on to this show where we're thinking, what could Stadia white label? So the quote from the Star Wars blog is, Skydance New Media was formed in 2019 with the goal of creating high-fidelity, rich interactive experiences crafted for traditional gaming platforms as well as emerging streaming services and designed to be appealing, inviting, and accessible to a global audience. That emerging streaming services bit is something that we kind of went, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if Stadia is involved in that.
Yeah, very interesting. So, obviously Star Wars, huge global brand, arguably the most popular, well-known of all time, possibly. And yeah, Skydance, newly formed, Amy Hennig, we spoke on the podcast about the creativity she brings, the storytelling-driven nature of her previous games, famed for the Uncharted franchise, for laying the foundations for what are some of my favourite games of all time. She's been toiling away in the Star Wars universe for a little while. She had a game with Ragtag Team, which was canned, was scrapped. Unfortunately, we only ever seen a little clip of how good that game could have looked and the possibilities. And here we are, several years later, Skydance New Media. They're bringing
number
it
two.
to emerging streaming services.
Now,
and when you think of emerging streaming services, you've got obviously Stadia, you've got Luna, GFN to a degree,
PS Now or whatever gets branded part of PS Plus in the future. I'm going to still call it PS Now just as an ease of use thing. You've got Xbox Cloud Gaming.
Yeah, but
they're the main ones.
For my reckoning, I would say PlayStation, Xbox and Nintendo to a degree. They're all just classed as traditional gaming platforms.
Yeah, even the cloud gaming element I don't think would be...
You wouldn't need to mention it, right?
If that's what they were thinking, I don't think they'd mention it. So I am thinking they're looking at Luna, they're looking at Stadia. But
the metaverse.
The one thing I do want to point out on this is Skydance New Media I think they're an independent studio. Mm-hmm. They're currently working with LucasArts Games, which is the reformation of LucasArts, which was closed down in the past. So this game, the originally Ragtag was under EA.
Yeah.
So now EA not involved in this. This is directly under, basically, this is Disney. LucasArts Games is Disney. It's the gaming division, specific mainly for Star Wars and a few other things like Monkey Island and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, we've seen since the EA license ended, we obviously had Battlefront 2, we've got Jedi Fallen Order, Star Wars Squadrons. Now everybody and his dog can make a Star Wars game. We've got we've got Eclipse coming, we've got the Knights of the Old Republic remake, we've got the game from Ubisoft, we don't know what that is yet. No doubt many mobile games. But yeah, just streaming services, emerging streaming services. And that got us thinking on the podcast, Richie. If it doesn't mean Stadia and Luna, anything that doesn't even exist now, this game isn't coming out for several years yet.
Yeah.
And on the show, on the podcast, the main Sounds of Stadia podcast on the channel, we kind of almost went down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, actually, if you go back and watch the episode, if you haven't already, you can see the origins of this idea for SideQuest form. It's like, and we literally go, should we just push this to SideQuest?
Yeah, because we need to talk more about it. Of course, you can write into the show for topic suggestions for this very podcast in our Discord. Links in the description below. But yes, my brain immediately spun off into thinking this is exclusively done not internally, but through Disney. There is no kind of EA involved. There's no Ubisoft involved, which gives them a bit more autonomy.
I really, rather than having one publisher making the games, because if you look at, say, Ubisoft, you know what a Ubisoft game is, you know what an EA game is. By LucasArts keeping hold of the license themselves and just leasing it out on, maybe he's a one game deal, he's a free game deal here and there, it means you can get so much more with the IP. In Star Wars IP lends itself to so much sort of stuff. Give Codemasters the IP to make a pod racing game. There you go. You could literally do that, which you couldn't have done under just the EA exclusive.
So that got us thinking a little bit in the main show about emerging streaming markets and what that actually means. And then that made me think, I've just cancelled my Netflix subscription this month. For the first time since 2013, the app made me very clear where. And there was almost a part of me that didn't want to hit cancel because I've had such tenure with them. I didn't want to break the streak almost, but going up to £15.99 a month for how little I watch it at this moment in time, they've lost my business, unfortunately, because I'm using Disney Plus way more. I'm watching Moon Knight. I'm watching the Star Wars movies back over now. I've got the Obi-Wan Kenobi series coming up in the future. And it just does make you think, something that wasn't around. Remember, Disney Plus only launched in 2020 at the beginning of lockdown, and they've seen a massive surge in their content, the library. They've pulled stuff from Netflix. And when they were talking about emerging streaming services, my brain went off into, actually, you know what? My LG TV in my living room now has a Stadia app built into it.
Yeah, most smart TVs
required
do nowadays.
It's just there. It now has Disney Plus built into it as well. It's just there. What is to stop me going onto Disney Plus, going down to the Star Wars section or the Marvel section, and through white labelling, what's to say in several years' time, Disney don't just have a link that says Star Wars movies, Star Wars series, Star Wars games. And there is, powered by Stadia perhaps, maybe powered internally through their own, I 100% can see a world where I'm playing Jedi Fallen Order 2, I'm playing Battlefront, or whatever Star Wars games they want to give us, or this new one from Amy Hennig, via a link on my screen with no prior hardware required, just the TV and the Disney Plus app.
Potentially Knights of the Old Republic remake.
And you mentioned, Richie, in the main podcast, maybe, I think, is there's nothing to stop them to make it such a valuable proposition. The game's just included with the Disney Plus subscription.
Well, they could even do 2 tiers if they wanted with Disney Plus. You could get your basic tier where you get a rotating cast of games in. So maybe one month you have Jedi Fallen Order, next month, bear in mind, we're not just with Disney, it's not just Star Wars. You could get Marvel's Avengers for a month. Yeah,
hey, you could have the Lion King classic game, the remake of Aladdin.
You could have the higher tier where you could have access to everything. So it could be a money spinner from Disney. But what they'd need to do is where this idea we went quickly to is how would they do it, incorporating games into Disney Plus? They'd need a streaming service that can play those games that has the tech. Or Google Stadia white label.
It's there.
It's there.
And the best part about it is all it needs is a link through. So when you scroll down past the Clone Wars TV series or the movies or Obi-Wan Kenobi series, and there's the game section, when you hit play, all that does in Disney Plus is gets the information from a server somewhere and streams the movie.
Yeah.
All it needs to do is divert you to the Stadia app, which again, as Richie said, is on a hell of a lot of smart TVs now, and it will be on millions more in the future. It just has to kind of pivot you down a different channel, and there you go, the game's being streamed to you. Little pop-up message, Mickey Mouse might pop up and say, "Ha, you need a Stadia controller, or you need a PlayStation controller." Ha.
You don't. I was going to say you don't even need a Stadia controller, any controller, because you can use your phone as the link.
A Disney controller.
You boot up your Disney Plus app. You go to controllers, which will be just a new thing. You link whatever controller you want to use to your phone, and bang, it's connected to your TV, and now you're playing Stadia. You're playing any Disney game through Stadia. Disney have some of the best IP.
They do.
Everything from family stuff, like Aladdin. The Aladdin game from back in the Sega Mega Drive. That was awesome.
Yeah, and it was hard as hell.
Oh, yeah.
But you're totally right. If they're going to just like cultivate a list of IP that they own, you're right. They've got Marvel, they've got Star Wars, they've got all of the Fox stuff. They've got the Simpsons now. There's Simpsons games that date back decades now. Yeah. Simpsons. If we ever get that Simpsons Hit and Run remake, what's to say it's just not next to the 30 seasons of the Simpsons on your browser in the app, ready to go. Click to play the Disney way. Selling it for them already on that one.
Yeah. And here's the thing, from Google's perspective, you've got one of the biggest companies in the world giving you money. And if that partnership forms, both American companies as well.
That is a good point, that actually.
Yeah.
They would, I'm sure, rather collaborate with each other rather than branching out to another, especially in the way the world is right now. That could be the seal of the deal, is they're both mega conglomerate companies in the States that want to get rich together.
The reason I bring that up is because I think things like I know the French are very protective of their industry, so Ubisoft is it's very difficult for someone to buy Ubisoft. Japanese developers can be quite insular, and a lot of family owned companies. Like, I think it's something like I think it might be Toyota. Have got like hundreds of years run by the same family, and they just adopt people into that family. So it's a very different business culture there. But between two American companies, there isn't that baggage there. There's a potentially very fruitful partnership for both Google and Disney. Yeah.
And you've got to think in the future again, you've got YouTube is by far the biggest streaming service, Disney Plus. I honestly think we're in a world, I know Netflix is in the news a lot this month about them tanking subscribers and stuff. And I think I said on a podcast maybe like well over a year ago, Netflix has got nothing to fall back on. It might have been the trailblazer, it might have been the frontrunner, but Apple, Amazon, Disney, they've all got other things to fall back on. Theme parks, movies, production studios, Amazon sales. Apple have their iPhone brand and Apple Mac. Netflix have Netflix. They've not got... If their subscribers tank, other than getting new IP, which guess what? All the other companies are now putting in their own streaming services. I can see a world in 10 years where Netflix is just shriveled to non-existence, unfortunately.
I can see it going that way, because the thing is, Netflix rely on their own original content to drive people to the platform. And if it isn't landing, well... I haven't really heard good things. I don't watch Netflix. I haven't at all, basically. I've never had Netflix like a subscription more than like for like a 3-4 month period in a row before I cancel it. But I'm like that with every streaming service. It's not necessarily a reflection of Netflix.
Well, I put out on Twitter like Stranger Things is my next big thing I'm looking forward to. The Last Kingdom is apparently very good, but in between it's very wishy-washy, and when I've got everyone else knocking down my door, I can only spend my money so many times before I'm skint.
What I think's just happened to the stock prices is people have waking up to an email saying, "Oh, the price is going to go up," and that's got them to think about it. And
which is a bad.
When was the last time we watched anything on Netflix? Oh, we watched that show like a couple of months back. Just cancel it. I think that's what's happened. That's probably what's happened to the stock. It's basically probably what happened to you.
As soon as you tick past that $9.99 mark, it's a whole different ball game. $11.99 you might be able to get away with, but now mine's going up to $15.99. I'm out. I'm rethinking it, and that's exactly what happened. And I've been with them since 2013.
We'll move off Netflix in a sec after I said this one last piece. I still don't understand why you have to pay extra for 1080p.
Well, it's 2022, Richie. Not everyone has a 1080p too. Oh, wait, they do. They do. That's absolute rubbish.
It's worse than Stadia in that element where you have to pay extra for 4K. At least 4K is still not the default. Anyway, going back to Star Wars, and Disney, this is one of them moments that I think, have we just made Disney and Google a shit ton of money if they're listening?
I mean, they're always listening, are they not?
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, though, 5 years, maybe 10 years, if white labelling goes the way Google clearly wanted to at the moment, I think it would be a match made in heaven. And I, for one, would welcome video games being played through my Disney Plus subscription.
Maybe
down, I'd love to see it.
Because maybe that is the way cloud gaming goes, with like this more white label services rather than like dedicated platforms. So rather than getting Google Stadia, Amazon Luna, you go, oh, I've got Disney Plus games. I've got Ubisoft Connect.
I mean,
which is streaming games.
Are we even in a world, realistically, Richie, where like Disney negotiate with Sony for the Spider-Man license, and Disney push back and go, we're about to launch our game streaming service within Disney Plus. PlayStation, give us Spider-Man, and you can have Tom Holland for another 2 movies or something like that. And then before you know it, you're playing Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Spider-Man 2, Wolverine on Disney Plus through your TV via Stadia white labelling.
A couple of years
instead of
ago,
having a PS5.
A couple of years ago, I thought that would be an absolute no way. We're not giving up any of our game licenses. But Horizon Zero Dawn is now playable on PC.
God of War's about to drop on GeForce Now.
It is.
Anything can happen.
So Sony, and if this is going to a Disney Plus white label service and going, yeah, you're not going to get the day and date stuff, but a year out, you can have it. Yeah.
Yeah, why not? Like, these deals, like, everyone's in it to make money, so, I mean...
Sony get that massive spike from buying on the platform, those who want a day and day, and later everyone can get a Disney Plus and Sony get a kickback from it.
I mean, let's face it, by the time this is a reality, Disney may have bought Sony by then just to get Spider-Man. Microsoft may have bought PlayStation by then just to get them on Game Pass. Like, Tencent might have bought the world. You just don't really know what's going on.
Nintendo and Sony team up and we'll finally get the Nintendo PlayStation.
We might get Stadia on the Switch. Who knows? But I guess moving on from our amazing Disney idea, Disney Plus games. Yes, please. Give me all the Star Wars and Marvel games via streaming.
Google or Disney, if you're listening, yes, we will work for you.
Marketing team 101. Who else do you think, Richie? Basically, we need someone who's got a massive library of IP. They're not beholden to a particular platform, and they want to make some money. One
of the first we came to, because I think it was just literally, it was in the Sounds of Stadia podcast as well, and it's quite in vogue at the moment. Sega seem to be making a comeback.
They do, yeah. I'm all about it. Sega.
I mean, Sonic Origins was literally like announced today as of recording.
Mm-hmm.
Sega could go white label on Stadia. That again, I'd love to see Stadia. I mean, we pretty much both in agreement. We're going to say it again. Bring Sonic Origins to Google Stadia. Do it, you cowards.
There's been loads. Like, we've got Sonic Origins. We said Sonic on Stadia it's currently only in the state of the Olympic Games mascot character, which is embarrassing. But Sega, they've always been part of the games industry for as long as I know, as long as I've lived. Yeah. And Sonic's seen a massive resurgence with the movies, and they're breaking them all. We've got a Streets of Rage movie on the way. Reading from The Verge, recently this week, they announced that they're going to be working on big budget reboots of cult titles Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio. So Sega are like, they're back in. They want to make games. Obviously, they've got other franchises as well that kind of spin off from it. Richie, you could have Panzer Dragoon coming back in some form. And you said Golden Axe? You'd love to see a Golden Axe movie or a game or something like that?
That was more of a joke, but... Why not? Bring it back. Like, it doesn't just a remaster. You don't even have to remake the game. Bring out some HD remasters of the Golden Axe franchise. Why not?
You know what? White labeling, as much as it's obviously a bad look from a consumer standpoint if you're just a sole Stadia player, but if you're a business, and like we said, like Sega, if you have a rich catalogue of like Sega, every time they put out a Mega Drive collection, you're talking 100 plus games.
Yeah.
They have to buy. If you can make that accessible via just a Sega web link or a Sega web page or an app, it's just money left on the table, right?
I mean, it's worth remembering some of the other like more modern, because as Sega kids, both of us, we focus on like the Golden Axes, the Mario, not the Mario,
the Mario. What?
That was a faux pas right there. The Sonics, but the Virtua Fighters, stuff like that. But there's stuff like more modern stuff like Yakuza game came out last year, Your favourite Monster Boy. That's Sega, I believe.
Humankind.
Persona.
Boy, Sega.
I'm a big Persona 5 fan. That's Sega. House of the Dead, I think there's a remake coming of that.
All the arcade games, of course.
The Total War franchise. Sega have got some IP just sat there. They've got enough, and a very varied as well. Shenmue 3, 2019. Like, they've got so much stuff there that they could literally, there's enough there to actually have a subscription service.
Well, that's it. Take it all together, hand it over to Google. They work the magic with a fancy blue storefront where Sega pops up, and then there's your list of games. And you pay $4.99 a month, because that's the way things go. You click a link and you can play it on your TV. Yeah, there's a Sega Link app on your TV next to your Disney Plus, next to your Netflix. Yeah. And it works. Either that or someone's going to come and buy Sega out in the next few years. It's got to go one or two ways. But it's great to see them back in the world.
I could even see myself. It's one of them things. One day, if it happened, and let's say I had actually new TV that actually gets updates. I'd be bored just on telly and just go, Sega. I could go for some Sonic 1 right now, $4.99. You know what? For a month, let's do it. I'll play one night and never touch it again, probably.
Yeah. Well, again, you've got Luna has the retro channel, which features games like this. It's just rather than do it through someone else, if Google would just go, well, we'll just do it for you. You just give us a percentage or a flat out, I don't know, we don't know how it works. Yeah. There you go. There's all the collection. The only work that will need to be done is once it's ported, it's in the cloud, it's there forever, it's in the servers. I think the stipulation of all these things we're pointing out is Google, which we've not seen with the AT&T deal, Warner Media, they need to have it in any contract clause that they negotiate that the games need to be a la carte available on Stadia.
Yeah, that's out both of our stands as Stadia fans.
It's stupid business if you're like, there's the tech, you have an absolute blast with it. Do you want us to port it to your platform? Since though it uses the same tech, so it would just be a case of putting the link for our game on your storefront. That's it. Obviously, there's a lot more to it, but it's a basic level.
I'm not sure how much more to it is, because the hard work is getting it running on the platform. If it's running on Stadia White Label, it's running on the platform.
Yeah, I believe there is someone out there who has Arkham Knight running through Stadia in some kind of early test. Probably, with a user code. And all it would take is to send it live. There's a little tick box somewhere Stadia on a website where you just tick to push it live to the storefront, and Arkham Knight is sat there. So Google, whatever you're doing, whatever negotiations you're doing, just put a stipulation in there. If you're going to port it to the platform's tech, just port it to your damn shopping centre as well.
Even if it's conditional.
Yeah.
If it's
if there's a time delay, something like that. But
let's run through a few more of us. Ubisoft, possibly. I don't want to dwell on Ubisoft because we're always talking about Ubisoft. It's a good fit, I reckon, for Ubisoft Connect, Stadia White Label. I think they go hand in hand really well. Let's move on.
With just a quick side note to Ubisoft, I believe Ubisoft are all in on cloud. I think they want as much as their library as possible in the cloud, so that one day they can clip the tether from everyone else and just go Ubisoft Plus, play it through into cloud gaming. We don't need Stadia, you don't need Luna. We have our own thing, powered by probably one of these two or a combination of these two. But they're the only ones that are really committing to it, it would appear. So Ubisoft are just doing their Ubisoft thing. Out there being ubiquitous, Richie.
They definitely are. Another one I want to bring up is EA. What do you think there could be something there?
Yeah, I've theorised a few times that EA have the library, they have the money, they have the studios, the developers to make their cloud move, and they're yet to do it. They're probably... Aside from Activision, they're the biggest company that's yet to even really dabble outside of a few Stadia ports, and we don't really think they've landed that well. But they've got enough in the tank to, if they really wanted to push forward, they could just do an EA cloud model and have it all to themselves, running on Stadia White Label.
Is it EA Play? Is their subscription service they have?
Yeah.
So they've already got the subscription service. So what we're kind of talking when we come to white label, cloud gaming here is, you've got a subscription service. How do you detach that from hardware? and just have it playable anywhere. And that's where cloud gaming comes into play, because then you could go whatever, you just play straight through your TV, on your phone. Again, and what makes it difficult for a company like EA is its infrastructure, having the servers to run it in the connection.
Yeah.
The data centers. Google have that. So I think it would be a good fit.
Yeah, and we've got to remember with EA, they're about to go through like a whole rebrand with EA Football is the new FIFA. They've got the new golf game that's been pushed back to next year. They've got Madden. They have these sports franchises that are played millions upon millions of times the world over, and they lend themselves very, very well to portability and accessibility. I play FIFA more on my phone with a Razer Kishi than anything else because I understand what Stadia is. I get it. There's millions of users out there who would love to play FIFA Ultimate Team, a quick game of Madden, a little game of golf on the go, or maybe a quick race in Need for Speed, and they don't have that accessibility. And we've said time and time again, it's barrier to entry. If EA get all of those massive franchises and IP that they own, remember they own Codemasters now, so that's a lot of racing games as well, which notoriously are quite good on mobile. Like the screen, it doesn't need that much to play a racing game. EA could do that, and you're totally right. EA Play in the cloud is a thing that I think Stadia could really help with. They've got games on the platform, they've ported them, so they have the tech kind of under lock and key already. It's just someone at EA needs to go, look, everyone else is moving in this NFT, metaverse, cloud arena. What are we doing with our library? Yeah. And I think it really just needs, like, one financial year they turn around and go, well, who have we worked with? We've got nothing on Luna. We've got nothing on GeForce Now. We've got a Game Pass deal with Xbox. What are we doing for ourselves? Like, they're a business. They're a greedy business as well. So at what point do they look internally and go, you know, we could just give Google a small percentage of this revenue and have our entire library on any device, anywhere, at any time.
That's it. I think
and we get the proceedings.
When it comes to like cloud gaming data centers, I think it's basically largely Amazon versus Google versus Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
There is other players, but not that don't have the same like level of like revenue to like invest in the infrastructure as them three.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be one of them three. Microsoft will be probably an exclusive deal that comes to xCloud, which EA probably won't go for. So it's Amazon or Google.
I mean, Game Pass has already got EA Play included, so they might be able to build on that relationship. But again, at what point do EA go, why are we giving Microsoft so much money for Game Pass? Like, we could just do it ourselves. And again, if Stadia white labeling is the cheaper yet equivalent, arguably the better tech alternative with no ties to Microsoft, then you're cutting that third-party tether.
We might just be do it ourselves as well. You don't have to take away from what you're doing with Xbox. You can just go, we already have EA Play as a subscription service, so if you're, say, a PC game where you can access this catalogue of games, why don't we just take the next step? We'll give a percentage of revenue to Google, and now you have it in the cloud.
Yeah. It's, again, in all of these companies that have the content, that's the thing with subscription services or cloud services. You need the content, and I think all the ones we've described today are big enough to at least start off with a decent library of material to get people in the door. Yeah. And the great thing with all these subscription services, and more importantly cloud, is you don't have to drop £400 on a box. If you want to play next year's FIFA, Sonic Frontiers, whatever the next Ubisoft game is, or the next Batman game, you don't need to drop £400 a box. You just need a link, an internet. And everyone has internet. Albeit it's not so good everywhere, but this is the dream cloud gaming that we've bought into so much over the last 2 or so years. With Google Stadia, when Luna finally comes to the UK, we'll inevitably check that out. I'm sure it'll work fantastically. Loads of people we know in the community play GFN. They absolutely love it. God of War, like I said, is about to drop. The world is opening up so much more to cloud gaming. And as we said on last week's show, it's only going to increase and it's only going to get bigger and better every single year. There's going to be buyouts and mergers. There's going to be weird things happening. And I think we all approach white labeling as like a really negative thing initially because we're Stadia fans at heart.
Yeah, that's it. We're coming from a Stadia fan point of view, and we usually talk about white labeling.
Yeah, but if you don't give two shits about Stadia and you're a hardcore PlayStation player or a Nintendo Switch, and all of a sudden Sega launch a platform where you can play Sonic Origins on any device you own just through a Sega link, obviously that's money in Google's pocket. how that impacts us as Stadia players, that's down to Google to negotiate those games being a la carte available.
I mean, I'd love to see a situation that if, let's say it's a Disney, like, okay, Disney's white labelled for commission Google for white label, say Stadia. You're getting your Disney games and Disney Plus, wherever you are. Google take a hit of that. Part of that money goes back into Stadia in various ways, whether it's to get more games on the platform, maybe it's to bring the Disney games in, it's to improve the services, everything around it, so they get that bit reinvestment back into Stadia. So white labelling could actually be the revenue spinner that eventually allows Stadia to have this long growth. Well, short term Stadia, it's swung and missed, but long term, if they've got a steady stream of income coming from the AT&Ts, potentially your Ubisoft, your EAs, your Segas, your Disneys, they're the ones we just talked about today, it could be good. To wrap up, I just want to throw out a few more potential things that could be. Embracer Group, they've got enough IP to sustain a subscription service. Just a few. Yeah. You got things like Konami, Capcom, Bandai Namco. I'm less optimistic about that possibility. You got more out there for ones that I thought when I was looking through lists of publishers earlier, because that's something I have to do when I'm pulling a show together. Good Old Games, the PC gaming DRM-free distributor. Stick a cloud layer over that. They're still just distributing the games. White label, good fit. Yeah.
There's nothing to stop like an indie collection going of like all indie developers band together under one label and put their games in the cloud for more people to get access to them, rather than getting buried on a Nintendo Switch storefront where there's 10 shovelware games a day dropping.
Well, what I'm thinking with Good Old Games, with them being DRM free, so with Good Old, you can just literally download from the store and it's not tied to a launcher. But they do have, I don't know if they still have it, they used to have a launcher, but they could also just go, you can launch this game through if you've bought this game, you can just attached to your account, you can just launch it through our cloud gaming service, which is just technically Google Stadia.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's things like Steam and Epic out there could get involved as well, but there's definitely potential. This is probably why Google want to start white labeling it.
Again, we've said time and time again, but Google are like the kings of analytics when they've got it. They know the ins and outs of everything. That's like their entire business is built on that. And if they can read the tea leaves, as much as we give them shit week in, week out for like the stuff they don't do, they're not where they're at today without having some kind of foresight and the industry and the world economics and how stuff works. And I think as little as we know about gaming and stuff and say they're not really doing it right, they're in it for the long game. I hope. I'd like to think as a business, like they're not, like the games industry is worth too much to just give up on now, because where they're going to want to be in 10 years.
The investment in the tech and the hardware to get Stadia off the ground will cost so much money. They've probably had multiple contingencies. Like if you don't hit this threshold, we switch to this plan. If you don't hit that threshold, we'll switch to this plan, and so on and so on. They will get the money back in the long term out of this. But that's all we have time for this week. Let us know in the comments if you think Disney Plus should include Google white labelling, Stadia, whatever you want to call it. And if you've liked the video,
we should get 1% of revenue from that.
Sod that, give us 10. If you've liked the video, hit the like button and consider becoming members for as little as 99p, which gives you early access to this very show. If you've got any ideas for topics or you want to discuss things even further, we have a Discord server. The link is in the description of this video or this podcast, wherever you're consuming this content. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Richie.
I thought you were going to say Merry Christmas then. I've been Merry Christmas.
He hasn't. He's been Chris. Quest completed.